So it is time to start the Summerween vlog. It is actually Monday the 7th. We were away this weekend, so we took a long weekend for the 4th of July weekend, went down to Shenandoah and just rented a cute cabin. And I'll try to superimpose the clips I got this weekend here while I'm talking about it. I didn't get a ton of clips, so I can probably just have them here while I'm talking about what we did. So we left on Thursday the 3rd, drove down and had some really good burgers, and had a drink after that, went back to the cabin and marathoned the last 3 episodes of Squid Games from season 3. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I don't think I got any clips of any of that, but on Friday, the 4th, we went to Buc-ee's. So one of the reasons we wanted to go down that particular weekend was because the Buc-ee's had recently opened and just thought it would be fun to check it out. So we went to Buc-ee's. Conveniently nearby the Buc-ee's is the Green Valley Book Fair. If you're ever near Harrisonburg, Virginia, would highly recommend. It is, I think they get excess stock from different places because they're new books. They aren't used, but they are also at a very affordable price. So it's just a warehouse of less expensive books. It's incredible. And so it's conveniently near the Buc-ee's. So we stopped by the Green Valley Book Fair to do a bit of book shopping. We met up with a friend who's close enough to the area and went to a winery and solved one of those murder mystery games where you get pieces of evidence and try to figure out what's going on. We were 2/3 successful at that, but that was a lot of fun. And then went to go get some Thai food with him, have some ice cream. We went back to the cabin, so that was Friday. And then those 2 days were not part of Summerween, and so I was still reading the Spanish Love Deception during those couple of days, the little bit of reading I was able to do. And so Saturday started Summerween, and we had some breakfast, and then instead of actually going out for a hike, it is just so hot right now. Instead of going out for a hike, we actually went to some caves, and much rather explore a cave that's 55 degrees than go on a hike in the 90-degree heat. So we went to check out these caves, and it's a guided tour, which is really cool because we got to learn more about the geology of what was going on around us, learn some of the history of the cave, because it actually is the longest, showcase operating cave, or cave open to the public for tours, like the longest running cave in the US. It's been operating as a show cave since the early 1800s. So it has some incredible history, super interesting, and interesting geology going on. So it was really cool to get a tour of that, and we got to escape the heat for a little bit. So win-win on that. And we also went to a different winery to check out a different winery, and had some Mexican food, came back, went to sleep, and just headed back the next day. Unfortunately, I don't think I got any clips of the actual cabin, but it was a really cute cabin. Anyway, so the first 2 days of Summerween were incredibly busy. We also had a friend coming to stay the night last night as she was making her way up the country to just kind of do a tour of some friends up and down the country. So, or up and down the East Coast. And so we were hosting her last night. So it's been a busy first 2 days of Summerween for the 5th and 6th, but it is Monday the 7th, as I said. So what have I been able to read so far for Summerween? So I decided to start with The Fury by Alex Michaelides. And this one just seemed very summery. It actually takes place over Easter, which I didn't realize. I'm wondering if that's part of the synopsis. I don't know if it mentions that it's specifically Easter weekend that they're going, but they're going over Easter weekend. But it is a group of friends who are escaping to a Greek island. And so still very summery vibes, but I am a decent chunk into this. It has gone by really, really quickly, and this has been super interesting so far. So we're following a group of characters. The narrator is Elliot, and so the first part of the book is really exploring who these group of people are, how they know each other, what their dynamic is, them being invited out to this island. And it's an interesting way of telling the story, because Elliot is also breaking the fourth wall a bit and talking directly to us as readers and telling us the story of what happened on this island, and says that it's more of a, like Elliot says, this is more of a character study and a whodunit than a whodunit. And it's just been really interesting so far. I'm enjoying the writing. I was enjoying the part where they're kind of setting the scene of these different characters and who they are, what their motivations are, a little bit about their dynamic. And then the second part is where, and we know from the beginning that someone dies on this island, and it's also in the synopsis. So, but it's clear from the beginning that someone dies on this island over the course of the weekend, and that mayhem ensues, right? And so in the second part of it, we learn more about this murder. We're getting some more detail about why they were invited, what secrets these characters are holding, that kind of thing. We're learning a little bit more about that. So at this point, I'm a bit over halfway. So the murder has happened, and anyway, so they're dealing with kind of the fallout of, or the immediate aftermath of that. And it's just been interesting. I have enjoyed it. Again, it's not necessarily a super fast-paced book, but again, kind of tells you that from the very beginning about what it's going to be and how the story is going to be told. So if you're, I guess this is, if you're looking for something that is super fast-paced, that's not necessarily going to be this, but it is an interesting character study of these characters, and just I'm enjoying the way the story is being told, if that makes sense. I've also, so this one is going to count for, I'll talk about the prompts kind of as I'm reading the book. So this is going to count for a sky on the cover, because we've got, the island in the background here and the sky in the background here. So you can definitely count it for that. I'm going to count Horror Store by Grady Hendrix as the one to read only at night or in the dark. And I mostly did that because it's pretty short. It's not a super long one, so it should be pretty quick to get through, and so I figured that would be the best one. If I'm only going to be able to read it within a specific time frame, I figured that would be the best way to do it. I just started this one last night. I didn't actually start this one on the night of the 5th, but so I'm just now on chapter 4, and so we're following some characters who work at this basically IKEA knockoff store, and a couple of weird things have been happening, and they're trying to figure out if some prankster is coming in the middle of the night and just pulling random pranks in the store, like doing random things in the store. And so the manager asks a couple of the employees and for reasons they accept, like he's going to pay them double, anyway, so he's trying to get a couple of employees to be willing to basically stay in the store at night as well with him, to do some rounds of the store, and if anyone comes in and tries to mess around in the store, they'll be able to catch them. And so the manager's like, hey, I can pay you double for these extra hours, would you be willing to stay and just kind of help do some rounds and make sure we catch anyone who's doing anything? And so they agree, and that's pretty much where we're at here. And one of the reasons our main character agrees, not only for the money, she needs the money as well, but she also wants to transfer to the other store that she used to work at. she has actually transferred. She's equidistant between two different stores, and she had been working at one and just thought it would be interesting to kind of have a change of scenery and go to the other one. But she doesn't get along with the manager very well, and so he will grant her the transfer request back to the other store if she's willing to help out. Anyway, so another reason that she wants to help do this. And so there are going to be a couple of employees as well as the manager who are staying to see what's going on. So that's as far as I've gotten in this one, but should be super fun. I don't know. I'm excited to keep going with this one tonight and see if I can just read a bit every night and have fun with it. So I'm going to keep listening to this one because I'm very excited to keep going with the Fury and, you know, get some things done. But yeah, so welcome to the Summerween vlog. There was a lot to catch up on since it's been a crazy first couple of days. But we should be back in the swing of things, and so I should be able to actually more fully vlog the books from here on out. So yeah. So we have a lot to catch up on. So on Monday, late afternoon, early evening, I did finish The Fury by Alex Michaelides. There's nothing more I want to say about the plot or writing style. I finished it. I really enjoyed it pretty consistently throughout. I just found it super interesting, enjoyed the writing style, enjoyed the character study here. So not really much more I want to say about that one. So on Monday evening, I started One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware and literally could not stop listening to the audiobook and finished it. It's currently Wednesday. I finished it yesterday, Tuesday, late afternoon, early evening. Could not stop listening. Again, I love Ruth Ware's narrator, Imogen Church. She's one of my favorites. I absolutely adore her narration and just her bringing the stories to life. I feel like she's the perfect narrator for Ruth Ware's writing style. Anyway, and this one follows a couple who is going on a reality TV dating game show called One Perfect Couple. And Nico is the one that is actually wanting to go on this show. He's an actor. He's wanting to kind of find his big break. And his girlfriend Lila is a scientist. She studies viruses. And she's not super excited about this idea, but he kind of convinces her. They go to this island and start filming. So the first part of it is, you know, them talking about the show, some red flags that are kind of coming up as they're getting ready to, or they're talking more to the producers about the show and they're getting ready to go. There are some red flags or just some things that are a bit off or weird. And yeah, they go to this island, they go to the place where they're going to film. They're starting to undergo filming and going through some of the first tasks and stuff. And then a huge storm hits the island. And so that's kind of where I want to leave it, I think. So the crew doesn't stay on this island during filming. They go to a place nearby. And a lot of them were, I think it's just because there's not a lot of space, but they were actually taking the first person to leave the show. I won't say who or whatever or what happened, but they're also taking the first person to leave the show, like, back to the mainland to kind of fly home. Anyway, so the crew isn't there on the island when the storm hit. It's mostly just the rest of the cast. And, you know, there are definitely a lot of injuries and a couple of deaths just in the process of this storm. So things are already crazy just with that happening. And then it really just becomes a survival story from there. I won't really get too much into it because there's only so much that the synopsis actually says. But it does say, as tensions run high and fresh water runs low, Lila finds that this TV show is all too real and the stakes are life or death. Is all I'm going to leave it at. And so it's definitely psychological suspense as this group is trying to survive together. Again, resources are running scarce. They're running out of food and water. Tensions are running high. Things are starting to boil over. Anyway, and she's just a master of just psychological suspense and just making seemingly innocuous or potentially innocuous things really just creepy and unnerving. Anyway, and I do want to give a huge trigger warning for abuse, like in a relationship. There is a couple here, so there's nothing physical on Paige, at least in terms of that. I will say there's clearly evidence of that going on, and you definitely see a lot of instances of kind of control and emotional manipulation on Paige, and so I do want to give a huge flag for that because that is quite a large part of the story, and I won't say more than that, but I do want to give a huge flag for that. If that is something that you don't necessarily want to read, I wouldn't read this one. But anyway, I had a lot of fun with it. Super intriguing. Again, I could not stop listening to the audiobook. And so I then started The New Couple in 5B. This is by Lisa Unger, and it's one that I've had my eye on since Olivia from Olivia Reads a Latte read it and absolutely loved it. So I am, let's see, on chapter 11, a bit over 100 pages in. And so we're following Rosie and Chad Lowen, and we're mostly following from Rosie's perspective. So she and Chad are kind of financially down on their luck. He is an actor. A lot of books about actors and performers. In fact, all three of these follow actors and performers. Pure coincidence, but anyway. So he is an actor, performer. They're in New York. She is a writer who has written a pretty successful nonfiction book. She is currently working on a nonfiction book about a certain building and the history of this building in New York City and the, murders and suicides and just like creepy crimes and creepy things and whatever going on in this building. She's writing a nonfiction about that. So she has met with her editor multiple times to kind of go over some changes to the book. And they're financially in a bit of a tough spot. They have been, in his final days, taking care of Chad's, is it his uncle? Anyway, they've been taking care of a family member who happens to live in this building that she's writing a book about. And they think that he's going to pass the apartment along to his daughter after he passes away, but he actually ends up changing his will and passing this apartment along to them. And the daughter is none too pleased about this. Anyway, so that's part of it. And so they have now moved in to this apartment. A couple of creepy things have gone on so far. It is clear that the narrator maybe isn't the most reliable. She's had some mental health issues just in terms of, she goes into better detail about it in the story of kind of what she's experienced, and she's worked with a therapist, has been taking medication. Anyway, so she does kind of have that history, and so some of this too is she's not going to be sure whether some of that is resurfacing or if what she's seeing is real kind of situation. Anyway, but some little weird things have started to happen after they've moved in. So that's kind of where we're at here, and I suspect things are even going to start to get a little bit weirder and weirder in this building. Anyway, I'm excited to keep going. I've been having a fun time with it. I also realized that I have not... Oh, by the way, this I think I'll use for the prompt on your TBR for a year or more. Hasn't been on my physical TBR, as you can tell, or maybe as you can tell, this is a library copy. But it did come out a year plus ago, I think May of 2024, so it's been out for over a year. And I do just like automatically have every Ruth Ware on my TBR to read. Or on my I'm going to read it and I'm interested in it list. So it's been on that list for over a year. I'm gonna count that as good enough because I do not have anything that I wanted to read for Summerween that I have physically had for more than a year. Anyway, and this one I can just count as a thriller / horror. So I've completed, those 2 prompts, or will have completed those 2 prompts once I finish this one. Sky on the cover, and then Horror Store is reading a book in the dark. So for novella, and this is kind of where this ties into the trip that we took over the weekend and the bookstore that we went to, I'm realizing I never actually showed what I got from there. I did get a novella, which is what I'm going to count for the novella prompt. I think actually today I'm going to go grab some lunch and run some errands, but I do think I'm going to stop by a coffee shop and just straight up sit and have a coffee and read this entire thing. I haven't done that in so long, and I really feel like I want to do that. And part of this, it's just over 100 pages. Part of this is actually an excerpt from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So this is a novella set in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I believe it takes place before the events of the series and follows Pip going to a murder mystery party. Sounds like it's gonna be fun. So I think for Summerween, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop and just devour. So that sounds like fun. I also got Crown Chasers. This is like a sci-fi. There's a tournament for the throne, or some sort of competition for the throne situation. Sounds super fun. I've had my eye on Immortal Dark, and this is one they had there, including the beautiful Sprayed Edge edition. I think it's a vampire story, so this will be a perfect fall one. I'm also going to read this in the fall. This actually didn't come from that story. It actually came from McKay's, which is where Matt dropped me off nearby where he was working, kind of on the way out to where we were headed. And so I was just kind of hanging around waiting for him to finish work, and he dropped me off at a bookstore. That's where I actually got this. But I will be reading this over the fall to finish this duology by Kylie Lee Baker. This is the follow-up to Keeper of Night, which I really enjoyed. So I also got Heavenbreaker. I couldn't resist getting this one. I have had my eye on it, and it's a beautiful copy. Anyway, had my eye on that one. I've also had my eye on continuing the Inheritance Games series. There is a short story collection that I haven't read, as well as one book that I think focuses more on the brothers. But this is a spin-off series that follows Avery hosting a competition or set of games for some of her money. Which just sounds fantastic, sounds super fun. And so we're following that competition. So I think we're gonna focus less on her, since she's probably just managing this competition, but we're following some of the participants of said competition. I also got a couple of nonfictions that are in a different area, and I don't wanna go up and get them, but I did also get Stamped from the Beginning, and then I also got Leslie Odom Jr.'s short little memoir. So very excited or interested, and had my eye on both of those for a while. So I think that's everything I got. I hope I put everything away, so I hope I gathered everything that I actually got. So yeah, I'm gonna head out, get some lunch, and maybe go to the coffee shop after that and read Killjoy, and then run some errands. So it's gonna be a good day. Anyway, all right. So it has been a few days, and Summerween has ended. Been meaning to check in. So I think when we last checked in, I was about to go to a coffee shop and read Killjoy by Holly Jackson. This was super fun. This is before the events of this series and follows Pip just going to a murder mystery party at one of her friend's house. And it was a lot of fun. That's the entire premise, is just them going through this murder mystery party. It was super fun because they come as different characters. It's like a 1920s vibe murder mystery in a mansion. Anyway, or really at their house, but they're like labeling different rooms as different rooms in a make-believe mansion and stuff for the game, and each playing, again, different characters, so they come dressed up and they have character profiles, and as they go through the game, they're given more information about their characters and what's going on, and then they're supposed to kind of piece things together. And I won't say anything more than that, but this was just so funny and so entertaining, and oh my god, I'll just say it was a very, very Pip moment that was going on towards the end of this party. Very Pip moment. And then this party and something that happens on the way home kind of inspires her to look into the Andy Bell case for her senior project, which is what we follow in the actual series. So it was kind of fun to see the inspiration behind that and just kind of get another glimpse into Pip's mind and her solving mysteries throughout going through this dinner party. Anyway, it was very entertaining. I'm glad I got it and have that to add to my Good Girls Guide to Murder collection. I was part of the way through The New Couple in 5B, had a lot of fun with this one. I don't know how much more I want to say about the premise. I guess just like some weird things keep happening, or weird interactions keep happening with people in the building. Weird things keep happening in the building. Like various people keep dying, and so she's trying to put together the puzzle pieces along with the detectives. And you don't follow the detective's perspective or anything in this. It's just Rosie's perspective. But anyway, I had a lot of fun with this one. I gave the basic setup, and I haven't checked in again about Horror Store, but I finished this one a couple of days ago and then have been continuing to read my summer reads that I have for the month of July during the day, and then reading this at night. And so I finished this last night, and this one was very entertaining. I need to check out more Grady Hendrix, but this was just a fun, quick, experience of this group of people in the store and just the horrific things that happen and what they need to do to survive. And anyway, it was very entertaining. So had fun with this, and yeah, definitely would love to check out more Grady Hendrix and see what I think of some of the other stuff that he's put out. So overall, a super fun time for Summerween. I do need to go return a couple of these to I need to return everything to the library, but a couple of these are due today because they are newer releases that I can only check out for a couple of weeks. But there's some glare. But we have Horror Store, The New Couple in 5B, The Perfect Couple, The Fury, and Killjoy. So 5 things that I was able to read for Summerween and check off all of the prompts. Again, this was for a novella, Sky on the Cover, I think It's Been on Your TBR for More Than a Year, mystery thriller, book you read at night. So had a good time. Definitely loved just taking a little bit of a break from some other stuff, but now back to summer romances and fantasy. So we're back on that train, which will continue in the next vlog. But I can go ahead and get this one wrapped up and hopefully get it up not too long after Summerween. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you participated in Summerween and what you read. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I read and what you thought about them. And I'll leave more information below, including my Instagram and how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.